A few years ago, I had an experience that forever changed the way I design projects, and it saved me so much time and frustration that I want to share it with every teacher I know. For years, when I designed projects, like 10% of the students seemed to be okay no matter how poorly I designed it. You know the type of student I'm talking about. They're going to be fine. But the rest of the students were either totally lost or just unclear about the overall purpose of the project. So my transformation in how I plan projects occurred during a meeting in Washington, D.C. I was chaperoning a group of students from my school in San Antonio, Texas. The students had traveled to D.C. to bring ideas back to San Antonio so that we could make spaces in our community more accessible to a wider range of people. As part of the students' exploration, they met with a group of people in the Department of Labor who focus on the Americans with Disabilities Act. When we arrived, the students asked the adults, "What's the first thing you think about when you design for accessibility?" Quickly, a woman responded, "Well, let me ask y'all a question." Actually, I don't think she said y'all, but I'm from Texas, so we're going to go with it. She asked, "How many of y'all used a curb cut on your way to our offices today?" You know, the curb cut, it's the part of the curb that's like a little ramp between the street and the sidewalk, so you don't have to step up. Several of us raised our hands. We'd brought our luggage, so most of us actually had used several curb cuts as we rolled our bags from the streets to the sidewalks. "Great," she said. "And who else uses the curb cut?" One student answered, "Well, parents pushing strollers." And another said, "Well, people on skateboards or on bikes, or people delivering packages." And the students had example after example of other people who use the curb cut. And she said, "Exactly. Curb cuts were made specifically for people like me. Like, I'm in a wheelchair. I can't access the curb without one, but lots of other people benefit from them. So when we design for equity and access, we think about the extreme user. In other words, we think about the person who doesn't have full access unless we change the design specifically for them. And the cool thing is, when we design this way, we end up opening pathways for access for lots of other people we hadn't even considered." So she finished her story, but each of the adults at the table had a different disability, and all of them had personal stories just like the curb cut. I'll give one more example. Next, a man asked, "Well, how many of you have texted somebody today?" And of course, every hand immediately shot up, and he said, "Awesome. Did you know that texting was made for people like me who are in the deaf community?" I didn't know that. I mean, it was fascinating. Each adult at the table told a different story about how something specifically designed for their communities had made all of our lives a little better. It was eye-opening for me as a teacher. As I listened to this conversation, I wondered if I ever planned like this in my classroom. I thought about it and I realized that I didn't. When I planned projects, I tried to think about all of my students, all 100 plus of them. But by thinking of all of them, I ended up not deeply considering a single one. So I tried something. For my next project, I designed it from start to finish with one single student in mind. And I'll be honest with you, he was a student who'd been frustrating the living daylights out of me. And to be fair, he definitely let it known he had similar feelings about me. We weren't doing great. But after the redesign of the project, the difference in our relationship was dramatic. That student, the extreme user, engaged in the learning more confidently than I'd ever seen before. And the students who didn't have to have all the curb cuts went a lot further. So by thinking of this one student, the student furthest from opportunity, I gave greater clarity to all. Scaffolds I designed for him, like turn-in talks, sentence starters, more frequent checks for understanding, and intentional groupings led to all students creating better products and deepening their understanding. With more confidence and clarity, the students engaged in richer discussion, rigorous inquiry, and they just really worked hard because they knew what they were doing. So what I learned from this experience is that by thinking deeply about the needs of one extreme user, we can open up pathways of success for all students.